Hi, Susan. It's Thursday, so that means Thirsty Thursday. We're going to talk about the marketing hits, misses, and just things that made us smile or frown that we saw on the internet and social media this week. So why don't we get started? I'll get started first with Hudson's Bay Company here in Canada. They announced as part of their Digital First initiative, for those of you maybe not in Canada who don't know Hudson Bay, it's kind of our major retailers, like the big department stores. They're in cities across Canada. Of course, they've probably struggled during this year because a lot of their business came from that in-person department store experience. So like many businesses, big and small, the pivot has happened. They've announced the Hudson Bay Marketplace, which is the call's gone out for retailers big and small to apply to be part of the marketplace. We know from Amazon, Walmart, these places have had marketplaces and done big business from it. Basically, the Bay will take part of a little, commission. For $30 a month, you get to use their digital platform. So if you're a small business and don't have that ability to set up or maintain or make it work efficiently, kind of a digital selling platform, this might be the thing for you. Also, I think we want to support kind of those unknown, smaller shops, but sometimes the experience can be clunky, Susan, right? Like maybe their shipping or their the buying the goods isn't as simple as it should be. So this is something that Hudson Bay is doing to allow people who maybe wouldn't be able to sell their stuff this way to do that. It's going to launch very soon too. So I'm excited to see it come to fruition and take a look.
That's cool. I like that. I think it does a couple of things for them. The first is that while they always had an online ordering platform, I think that was probably not their highest, like you said, it was a department store experience. So getting more people to go in to their platform online, I think this is a clever move. And, why not support the smaller retailers?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think this is a cool idea. So good for them. And then you wanted to talk about, what was it you wanted to talk about, Susan?
Well, one of the ones that I wanted to talk about, just hopping across the pond, staying here really, but talking about the royal family for a second, and the fact that last week saw the official end of Prince Harry, or just Harry and Meghan's official sort of move from the royal family, right? They left last year for reasons of being completely stalked by the press and something of a reliving for Harry, if anything, of his mum and all of that. And they had a year in which they thought about it and they got to review, and that came up now. So they've decided they just want to live their own lives outside of it. So a couple of things caught my eye about it. The first is the coining of the term Hexit.
I love that. The Hexit, okay.
The people and naming, I tell you, you gotta smile at that. But that said, there was a key messaging back and forth between the PR teams of the Queen's office and Harry and Meghan's office, and I thought it was interesting that in the Queen's official statement, she had something along the lines of how some of those titles are no longer going to be applied to Harry, and they spoke of how all his various service roles, like he's the one who came up with the Invictus Games and many other things. So a number of those roles he no longer will be in. So there was a sentence in there about, Harry will no longer be serving these blah, blah, blah organizations. And Harry and Meghan's team came back with a comment saying that everyone is allowed to be of service to humankind. So that was interesting. That it was
a little bit clap back there, yeah.
Yeah. And it was important for them to specify that their commitment to the service of these organizations they chose to support has nothing to do with his role in the royal family. They're drawn to that as humans and want to do it. So that was cool. I like a little bit of back and forth.
Yeah. And they have that interview with Oprah coming up. So I wonder how in depth they're going to go into the Harry Meghan palace relationship and the Harry William, which we've heard is tense relationship. So but yeah, no, good for them. And I think I respect Harry and Meghan for deciding, like, we want to take care of ourselves and our family first and foremost. And this job and the way the press was treating Meghan was just unacceptable. And so he wanted to protect his family first and foremost. So I think it's cool. Good for them.
Yep.
So now I wanted to mention something I heard about yesterday. I'm calling it the CTV Blackface Blunder. So on their mobile app, they had a series of images basically saying celebrate, during Black History Month, celebrate Black-led sitcoms from the past. So, there was image of the Jeffersons or Good Times, very well known 1970s sitcoms about Black families. And in amidst those images was a picture of Delta Burke, a white woman who was a star of a show called Designing Women in the 80s, in blackface. In that episode, the women of Designing Women were going to perform as the Supremes at a talent show. They debated and said, no, we're not going to do blackface. So maybe that was in the late 80s, maybe that was making a point. I'm not sure. But Delta Burke doesn't get the message, and her character shows up still. So the image they have to say celebrate Black-led sitcoms was Delta Burke in blackface. And if you see the image, it clearly is someone in blackface. So I'm not sure how that made it through the approval process, or I don't know who's in charge of that sort of thing, if they even really know the history of Black sitcoms. But yeah, that was quite the mistake. CTV's pulled the image, obviously, and they pulled that specific episode from their streaming app. I think it's still up in the States, I was reading, but here we've pulled that down. But oops, CTV.
I know. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
You got to wonder.
I know.
Those things still sneak by.
Yeah.
Did they apologize?
Yes, of course they did apologize. I'm not sure if it was like someone in the public noticed and pointed it out, but I did see the image, and it clearly should not have been there. It's a ridiculous mistake, especially in this day and age. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. In other news this week, on the marketing and channels technology front, was the fact that LinkedIn had a sort of a global crash for a few hours. And I remember I noticed it because I went and typed out something and was about to post, and it wouldn't post, otherwise I wouldn't have noticed it. So I was quite amused at the back and forth immediately after, and the migration to Twitter for those couple of hours. And a lot of comments were going around about how Twitter in 2 hours was more fun than LinkedIn all year so far. So it was hilarious. It's just, the channel wars keep going. And I think what I learned from it was the fact that it's fun to go somewhere else and check it out. Like if you have a primary channel and you have a focus, that's great. I think it's really good to focus on one channel, but it's also fun to see what everyone's experiences are when they move around a little bit. Yeah. And when I'm not on LinkedIn, I like to go and play a little bit on Clubhouse. I've not become brave enough to do anything with it, but I go listen to people if the rooms have like cool voices in it.
I'm sure there were a lot of panicked marketers and people were like, my LinkedIn crack, I need it. What's going on? So.
And to round it off, back to our Heritage of the 4 p.m. report after show, let's quickly recap this week's episode of the podcast.
Yes, so this week we had Lydia Di Francesco on to talk about wellness. She does a lot of those seminars and workshops for corporations. And she was a great guest. I really enjoyed listening to her. It's not like a lot of the information is new that she was saying, but the way she said it, it wasn't your typical like tips about how to get better sleep or how to be less stress-free. One of the tips I took away from that, Susan, was my lack of morning routine right now, just rolling out of bed and rolling to the laptop, maybe showering at some point. She was talking about journaling, and she actually shared a PDF with us. We should make sure there's a link for that, because she said we could offer it up to people. Just kind of reflecting, planning your day, talking about wins, reminding yourself to be motivated. That's something I said I was going to start, and I will start, Susan, and I will report to you on how good that goes.
I like it. You should check out that episode. It's heavily focused on the reduction of stress, which we can all use now. Well, so that's Thirsty Thursday, folks.
Peace.